Creep 2 is a film that I've been looking forward to since basically the first one came out. They had announced that they were making a trilogy basically since the beginning. And so after I saw the first Creep, which I really, really enjoyed, I was like, all right, I want to see the next one. At that time, they were saying that the second and the third would be completely different antagonists and that it wouldn't have anything to do with this one. But I think because of the popularity, especially of Mark Duplass's performance, that they wanted to bring him back to the audience so, they were familiar with the character that they loved instead of trying something new. That's a very tough thing to sell to an audience, especially when they like a character so much. I mean, look no further than Halloween 3, which I think is a fantastic movie, but because people want Michael Myers in it, so many people, especially then, it's gained its cult following now, and you talk to people in the horror community, and more people than not like Halloween 3. Now, you go back, when it came out, you probably couldn't find almost one person. Maybe like randomly you'd find that weird one person that would be like, yeah. So it's a gamble to make a sequel, especially one with popularity and an antagonist that works. That would be like making a Silence of the Lambs sequel without Hannibal Lecter. It's not a character that you can take out of that franchise because of the popularity of him. And what made the first one popular and what made people like it so much was Mark Duplass as that character. So it was imperative for them to bring him back, and I'm glad that they made that decision. Would I have liked to see a Creep 2 without him? Yeah, sure. I mean, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. I don't care. I just would be like, well, why is this even Creep 2? So I think that's another problem that Halloween 3 had, is like, if Halloween 3 would have been made as Halloween 2, that might have worked. But since the first two established had Michael Myers in it, it's kind of like, you can't make the third one ignore him. You could have had the second one ignore him, but not the third. So, but still, I think that if you're going to do a completely different property, it's like, why bother calling it this? It's just another found footage movie you made. I think it's almost like a way for them to be like, I don't want to make it look like I'm just making found footage movies. Now, I don't know what the reason would be behind that, because people watch sequels, popularity of the name, but whatever it is. Now, I really enjoyed this movie fully. I had a good time with it, but I will say that if you did not like the first movie, I can't imagine you liking this movie. I mean, it's ultimately two people in a house or out in the woods or whatever talking to each other. It's basically like My Dinner with Andre, the horror movie. I mean, that is what it is. So if you didn't like the first, you're not going to like this. I mean, there's a possibility you could, of course, but more than likely, I can't imagine you liking this but not liking the first. That just, to me, would be crazy. I'm going to talk spoilers in a minute, but I just wanted to say that. And what else I will say before I talk about spoilers is that this movie depended so heavily on Mark Duplass to, give us something new to this character and bring back that likable weirdo. And I think he succeeded in every way. Now, I will talk about the other actor in this movie, which I thought she was fabulous. But if he didn't bring that presence back, if he didn't bring that uniqueness, that weirdness, that guy that we enjoyed in the first one, this movie wouldn't, I don't care who else you put in it, it just wouldn't have worked. So kudos to him for bringing back such a fucking interesting character. Now, I definitely think that this was just released today, so there isn't going to be a lot of talk about it yet, but I think one of the first things that it's going to get compared to a lot is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which is essentially what this is. It's just on a much smaller scale. A serial killer who wants somebody. I'm going to kind of give a spoiler plot outline, so if you want to avoid any kind of thing here, I'm just going to talk about it. But anyway, so basically, a serial killer who wants his work documented. and has a film crew following him around. Except for in this one, he's not killing anybody for her, but he is trying to document his life as a serial killer. Now, I think where this differs, and I guess I'm just going to move into spoilers now for the film. So check it out if you like the first one. I think you'll enjoy it. So anyway, getting into spoilers. So one of the things I found odd about this movie is just from a straight storytelling point of view, his character doesn't really do what he sets out to do. What he's telling us, I want you to film me, and it's basically I don't understand what the point of his movie is. I like his character; he's entertaining. I like her; she's entertaining. I like the dialogue between them. I liked the scenes. I liked how weird he was. I liked this and that, but I don't really know, and he's crazy, so I guess I'm not supposed to understand it, but I don't understand what his film is supposed to be, because I thought for sure at some point he was going to take her out and show her that he can, that he is a murderer, that he's going to kill somebody, like Leslie Vernon, where he takes her out to show her how he does it, and where he hides, and how he picks them up, and this and that. And I thought that was the direction it was going to go into. And when it didn't, and it was mostly just them play flirting and him opening up to her about things that are possibly true, possibly not, but it wasn't really about kills. He doesn't really explore his serial killer side. It's more of just him saying he wants to make a film, talking to her about random stuff, and then ultimately wanting to kill himself on screen. So it's not really a documentary about his prolific career as a serial killer. It's more just here's a day with me hanging out and talking like you would anybody else. And that's where I think one of my problems with the movie came, is that I think that it should have focused a little bit more on him, the serial killer, and not him, the nutcase, if that makes any sense. I would have liked to see a little bit more of his MO and who he is and what he does and what he's about. And I don't feel like they discussed that enough. But as far as the storyline goes, I definitely could relate, obviously, if you're watching this. This is a girl who wants to start a popular YouTube channel because she wants to connect with other people and this and that. And this is what I do. I just started this channel pretty recently, and I want this channel to be successful purely for meeting other people like me, because I live in a small town where there are no horror fans. There are no people who like the shit that I like. I have this amazing display of cool shit and not a person to share it with, not a person to show it to. And it's depressing. And I think ultimately she would like it to be popular so that she can make money in it, and that she could be doing that full time, which would be wonderful. God, I could not imagine something better than doing this full time. Getting paid to, and not just because I'm oh, give me the money. That's nothing, has anything to do with that. It's just, I love doing this. I love talking about film. So I completely attached her, and I'm she's looking at her YouTube video views and whatnot, and just she has 9 views on one. When I first started this channel, my first 10 videos, 20 videos, they got 20 views, 30 views, and I was just I'm just keep it up, man. Just keep going. Just keep plugging them out. And then I had a popular video that made got 5,000 views or something. And I was oh, okay. Something's happening. So I was instantly, personally, attached to that desire. And basically she was going to go to any lengths to make her channel popular so that she could do what she wants to do. The believability of her character just driving out in the middle of nowhere to meet some guy off of Craigslist, and then he announces that he's a serial killer and he's acting super fucking weird, and he shows her video evidence of him killing somebody, and that. Of course, I'm not her. All people are different, but you can only take films personally. Like, that's how you see everything, not even just film, life in general. You try to step outside of yourself as much as you can, but in reality, for the most part, you look through situations through your own personal, lens. And so when I'm watching this, I'm just like, there's no fucking way, man. There's no way she'd be out of there so fast. And while her character seems to be so cool and with it in the beginning of him telling her, she like disappears in the bathroom. You can see she's rattled. You can see she's scared. But then she gets into this whole like, I don't believe he's actually a serial killer thing. And it's like, I guess that further goes to the point of if, the best way to hide the truth is just to tell someone to tell someone the truth, especially if it's ridiculous. They'll never believe you in a million years. If you walk up to someone and you're like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a serial killer. I mean, it reminds me of Grist Point Blank with John Cusack. Like, what do you do? So, I'm a hitman. And everyone's like, ha ha. Like, no one would admit it. So I do think that that's clever. But this is a girl that just met this dude. In 3 hours, she said she was driving up there. She's supposed to like spend the night at this house. It's in the woods. He comes out saying he's a murderer, like, and shows her like some chopping his fucking guy's head. And it's like, really? But you have to look past that and you have to believe that she is who she says she is and what she's doing. So I just took it for what it was and was like, all right. Obviously later in the film, she starts to get scared and weirded out. But even when he hangs himself and she shows, she's out, but then shows the harness. Now, she had so many opportunities to leave. Whether or not he would have ended up following her, tracking her down like he did with the last guy, who knows? But, she had multiple different moments where she could have bailed. But I do think that there was an attraction. I mean, she kissed him. She was so down to like show him her nude body. She was like rubbing his shoulders in the bathtub. So she clearly had an attraction to him, and I think that's ultimately what led to her going further than she should have. But anyway, let's get into the things I like about this movie. It's going to be quick because I think that this movie is pretty one note. It's just like not a ton is going on, so there's not a ton to talk about in that respect. But I like the funny jump scares with him. I thought those were funny because in a horror movie, modern day horror movie, like they want to incorporate a lot of jump scares because what audiences want, like younger audiences, not my generation, but like the millennials, the new ones, the up and comers. And so they kind of threw some in, but they're like parodies of jump scares. And it's just him being, trying to scare her. And a lot of the times fake jump scares are annoying in film, especially when it's like the friend, the buddy, the guy outside the window with the flashlight. And the girl's like, ah. I loved that it was him trying to fake scare the audience, but it was him trying to fake scare her and her never falling for it. I really liked that about her, that she was just, not having that shit. And, but it kind of went to her character that she doesn't scare easily. I mean, he asks her on the phone, do you scare easily? And she hesitates, but ultimately says no. And I think that the movie goes to show that she's tougher than most, maybe a little dumber, but tough. And another thing is, like, I feel like this movie could have been a rehash, and in some ways it was. It's just two people sitting in a house, and this not. I think people will be like, oh, this is just the same as the first one, but it's not. It's not. It's her. The first one, he is a completely different person with the other guy. Like, the amount of lying and the amount of manipulation and the amount, like in this one, this is him trying to be as honest and open as possible. Yes, he lies a little bit, but in the first one, he's just like a full-on pathological. I'm dying of like cancer, and I have kids, and I want them to see this video. And like, it is a full-blown sociopath. Like in the first one, in this one, he's way more honest, way more open. He's trying. He, eventually changes his mind. I'm not sure what this ending is. Like, they threw the whistle in throughout the movie. for us to know that that's him at the end. So obviously that's her seeing him. She survived. She didn't bury him. That wasn't him dead. Like, really? So I guess the third one he'll be back. Something that I really like Sarah. I've already said that. So I think she was great. What a great casting. She wasn't a typical casting choice in my mind. She just had a unique look to her, the way that she presented herself, the way that she, her character acted, the way she, and her character too, not just the actress, but the character as well, not being so weak and not being so afraid and not being so, there's so many, like, she's just felt like a unique, fresh character to me. And I really liked her. But this is how I feel about a lot of these movies, but like especially this one. I don't know what the budget on this movie was, but I genuinely don't understand how it was anything more than like $100. Like, for real. There's no lighting. Like, it's just like house lighting and they're out in the woods and it's just the camera lighting, and there's almost like no kills, gore, anything. Like, how this movie costing, I bet if I looked it up, it's like a couple $1 million or something. I don't understand how they could have spent over $1 million on this movie. Please, I'm going to look this up when I'm done here to see what the budget was, but how the fuck is this movie cost any money to make? Like, I know film pretty well, and, this is just two people holding cameras and talking to each other in a room, for the most part. Outside of Mark Duplass's time, but this is his movie. He doesn't even need to pay himself. He's producing the thing. So how this movie cost any money, it makes no sense to me. But anyway, I was a fan, for sure. I don't know what I expected, to be honest. I didn't really have any expectations, which is a good way to go into a movie. So I can't say it like, exceeded my expectations or was a totally different film than I expected. I literally didn't know what to expect at all. But I was very pleased with what I got. I think that they kept it true to the original enough, but also tried new things and did a different spin. I'm very curious on part 3. I'm super curious on where the hell that's going to head. So I look forward to that. It'll probably be next year. I'm guessing they'll probably just keep this a year-to-year thing. And we'll see what the conclusion of that. So definitely let me know what you thought. Anyway, I have a night of other movies planned. I'm still trying to figure out what those are. So I'm going to go get to those.